This is what happens when you get a large budget, a small space, and the ability to build your perfect system. Check it out.
Yeah, straight A student, but I'm friends with the cool kids. Following the rules and the rubric. Freestyle on the bus and it's too lit. Everybody like, hold down, who's this? Raising the stakes like Roos Chris. Clockwork, how I shine like Kubrick. Yeah, I heard what you got with the music. Think that it's hot, but it's not like mucus.
100 grams.
So I have a lot to show you in this video. First, I'm going to give you the full tour and all the gear we used. Then I'm going to show you the build process and how we got it all wired. Finally, I'm going to show you some of the secret sauce that gives this setup the cutting edge. So if you haven't noticed, we're actually in a high school, which is super impressive for a build of this size. All the gear was actually donated, a very generous donation by an alumni of this school. He had a lot of goals for this build, one of which was a state-of-the-art, future-proof that can handle absolutely anything we throw at it system. Second of which was to get the students excited and interested in just all aspects of production. And finally, a real showpiece and marketing tool for the school. In fact, enrollment is already up. So keep that in mind as we go through the gear in the studio. So here in the studio, we have the Blackmagic Studio 6K Pro cameras. The reason? We have a full Blackmagic ecosystem. So not only do our cameras talk to our video switcher really nice, but we have a bunch of things like 2110 running, which allow us to run a single cable for this camera system, and we can get control, we get our camera feed, and we get power, all with a single Ethernet. That's really nice. Our teleprompters are 27-inch monitors. All of these cameras are actually wired to 3 different patch panels here in the studio. We have this patch panel, which is our patch panel B. We have A over there and C on this wall. The reason we have them so far spread out is that we don't need any cables ever running across the door. You should be able to walk from this door onto the set without walking over any cables. That's the goal. In this patch panel alone, we not only have a power strip, which is a separate circuit from everywhere else, but we have our Ethernet patch. There is so many Ethernet ports in this system, and you'll see that when we go to the rack room. But we have 2110 here for our cameras. Everything's labeled. This is all Ethernet. We can get internet. We can get to our Dante system. We can get to any control of anywhere in the studio. And we can physically patch these differently in the rack room. On the other side here, we have our SDI ports as well as our XLR inputs. This way we can have multiple instruments in this room plugged in here. They are analog feeds going into the rack room, which can be physically patched to different ports, but everything is running into our Yamaha DM7 mixer. One thing I really like about these patch panels is that we've mounted them so all the ports come out the sides and not the front. Keeps it clean, people can go through, they're not gonna bump and rip out a cable, and it gives us just more walking room. You don't get to see these in a lot of builds. All the SDI ports and XLRs, and we even have DMX coming from an ArtNet node in the ceiling. This way we have all types of cables and connections for anything you want to do on the green screen or in the ceiling. Which brings us to the ceiling, where we have a full grid to rig all of the lighting we could possibly want. We have 10 RE sky panels up in the ceiling. We have our shotgun mics that could be extended and get close when we need it. Cables already ran down so you can physically patch them into our patch panels. We do have a bunch of additional lights coming in as well. We have hard lights that we are going to mount on the back to give hair lights for all of our talent, as well as mounting additional key lights, fill lights, things like that. And we have plenty of room to add additional hard lights for any of our key fill purposes to get some of that more cinematic lighting. Along with these mics in the ceiling, we also have a full RF wireless system. So we are using the Shure ULXD system, which gives us lavaliers and handheld mics. The antennas are Shure paddles, which you can actually see up here in the ceiling. Next to our paddles, we actually have 2 studio monitors, which are speakers. These speakers are plenty loud for the space. We use them for talkback, playing back audio tracks when we're in breaks. And then we have giant TVs. These are 75 or 85 inches. Then we have some 75 or 65 inches on the wall. They're all on arms, so we can move them around pretty easily if we need to. We can route anything to any TV from either the studio or this room. Check this out. So we have a bunch of these iPads for the classroom and the studio, which all can run anything because everything's on a wireless network.
That means I can take Companion, which is the heart and soul of how we control anything we want, and I can put it on the iPad. Fully working Stream Deck, if you've seen those before. So I can go here and go to our studio monitors. I can pick monitor 1 or 2. Let's pick this one here, and I can send it any feed I want. Maybe I want to send it one of our Apple TVs, maybe a specific camera feed coming into this. Really anything we want to route can be done just from the iPad, and that works for all of the displays in here, in the classroom, and in the rack room. We can also control all the lights in the studio, which means I can go here to studio lights, and I can bring some dimmers up and down. I can go to the desk and change the color of the desk as we need to, and I can just change all the lights on to our normal look. I can turn all the lights off. Everything's controlled via the iPad, which is super easy. So Companion is great, but it's not a perfect system, especially for lighting. So we actually had another solution, which is turn Companion off completely, and then pull up a different app. This one's Luminaire. It works great for everything we would possibly want for lighting control. We can, in fact, go to a single group of panels and really dial them in to change the lighting how we want it. Here, I can pick any light I want, turn the intensity up, bring things down, change the colors, and control everything from a lighting system. I can actually walk around and see the lights and not be tied to the studio. But don't get me wrong, we can still control everything from the studio. Of course, I can close it on here and bring it up here. Same exact scenes, control everything I need to, change all the coloring of my green screen. And here, you're seeing our keyer and how our different lighting actually affects what our green screen's looking like. We're cropping off the sides, putting fake background here, and that's our real background. We really need our lighting specific for something like this, so you can't even tell, but when we black it out or change the colors, you can see what's really happening behind the scenes. So now we're in the classroom, which is really a dual purpose system. We have the control room with our preview program monitors and everything we want to control, and we have the classroom. Funny thing is, everything in the classroom can also control everything in the studio. So all of these workspaces turn into usable seats for our studio system. Starting over here, we have the prep station. Edit videos, create lower thirds, whatever we need to do in preparation for our production. Then it goes into our switcher. So here is where the person switching, actually cutting cameras for the live stream or live to tape, whatever they need to do here. This is where they sit, and they have a dedicated control computer, which they can hit the ATEM switcher, the Ultimat controllers, our Luminaire lighting software, go to our streaming encoders. Everything can be touched from any machine. And by the way, there's not just one machine, but there's 7 different machines that you can place across all these monitors with different keyboards and mice going to all of them. But let me not get off track. Over here, we have the advanced panel, a 1ME 20 button wide, which obviously you can switch to all of the different MEs that you need, but this can take in 20 inputs. Right here, hit shift, you get another 20. Our switcher has 40 inputs total, so this board is perfectly sized for what we need. Then we have some video assists, preview program. You can check out your scopes and any coloring you need to do, which get us up to our LG dual 23-inch monitors, I think. So this is actually 2 separate displays stacked in one monitor. The monitors actually have 2 HDMIs in the back, and we have a whole bunch of them loaded up here, each one individually routed from our 120 by 120 Blackmagic video router. As we move down the line here, we see a bunch of Stream Decks. These are all the Stream Decks that have the same programming as that iPad you saw earlier. The Stream Decks can handle anything we want. I can go to our monitors and I can route something different here. Let me go ahead and throw on TT9, I can throw a different Mac Mini. And it'll just pop up right here, and I can use our KVM system. So these keyboards here can touch any of our 6 Mac Minis sitting over in the rack. I can go here to KVM-B, and I can route, let's say, Mac Mini E to these 2 monitors. So now I can take my mouse and go across my monitors, bring them wherever I need, and maybe I want to prep something else on Mac Mini C. I can now use the same keyboard and mouse to control a different computer seamlessly. Why?
because all of our KVMs are down here. So these are our KVMs and how we're getting everything into this room. We have 6 different USB extenders coming from the Mac Minis in the rack. Then we have 2 different KVMs. These are actually controlled via the network with this little IR converter here. We have a Mac Studio, which is kind of our main production Mac Studio, which controls all the stream decks running here. We have patch panels for Ethernet and SDI, and you can even switch locally here if you ever do have a problem, because we're always thinking about backups. You can change which keyboards and mice are controlling which systems here, but again, I can still go to our stream decks and trigger any changes on those guys. We actually kept the beep because it was actually nice for us in the control room to know that things are actually functioning as they're supposed to, and that this keyboard and mouse will change depending on which machine you are actually switching to. And remember, this system is built for future-proofing and modularity. So we don't know if this computer will be used for a teleprompter or playback or bringing in a Zoom participant, so we don't know where people are gonna sit to control these things. That's why we have 2 different stations for just our KVMs. Over here, I can bring up something on this machine. Over here, I can bring up something on that machine, and we can switch spots in what each computer is doing. These are the KVMs, and we expect mostly playback for playing back videos, backgrounds of the green screen assets, things like that, and the teleprompter to sit in these 2 positions. Down here, you can see our Hollyland comm system. One little trick we like to do is wire our comms into our audio board. So we were able, using 4-wire, to wire them in. That way, when we use our headsets, we can actually pull down a headset, have a different channel on our comms, and talk to their in-ear monitors that the talent might be wearing, or talk to the studio monitors between sets. Everything is routed through the audio board, the Yamaha DM7. This guy has 72 inputs, plenty of outputs, integrates with Dante, everything we needed to future-proof the entire studio. And finally, we have storage for our audio components. We have our microphones on a charger ready to go, but we also have our lavalier sets and our in-ear monitors, again, in chargers, ready to go, backup batteries, everything's charging when not in use. And we're all about simplifying workflows here. So even though this might be confusing, we want to watch back something we just recorded, we can go over here and turn up the volume just from the stream deck. So we don't even have to touch the audio board. But let me show you how it's working. Not only can we hit a button and turn things on and off, but if I actually go here behind the scenes, I can show you how this button raises the fader on the audio board. So if this seems too confusing or too many pages or too many layers for a student to use, we have simplification built in. So over here we have the teacher station, and he can access absolutely everything he needs to from his computer. That's the switcher, the video hub to route everything, even the audio board, which can control from over here. And even all the little things like being able to take a microphone here, run it through the system so that it can come out to the rest of the class when the teacher needs to show his screens to everyone else and actually use it like a normal classroom. So now that you've seen the front end, let's go check out where all these cables actually run, the rack room. So obviously this is the gear storage room before we get into the rack room. We have plenty of C-stands, rigging hardware, extra tripods, lenses, lots of lighting and flags and extra storage. We have some power cables, some rack gear, our battery charging station, DMX cables, some raw cable, more clamps and lights for whatever we need to grab and go. And over here, just a little more storage. These are actually all pop-up backgrounds, green screen, blue screen, gray screen, white screens, all for just going around, pop it up, do what you need to do. Then in the rack room, which is always locked, so you need a key to get in, and we have some other security systems coming that allow you to get some fob access. But this is the rack room. So here is my favorite part of our whole build. This is all of the processing power that makes the studio work, secured, fully wired, and cable managed to just do anything we need to do. So starting in the front, we have our Ubiquiti network switch, as well as some patch panels to get to our other rack. All of our cables are coming in, up, and over, and between the two racks via our cable trough. Then down below, we have our 2110 converters. We have 2 of them, giving us a total of 8 2110 ports that convert SDI in both directions. So this is how we are getting all of our cameras in and out of our studio via Ethernet cables. Then we have our massive 120 by 120 Blackmagic video hub. This allows us to route any signal to any of our destinations, and can you believe we've actually maxed it out with all the capabilities of this studio. Right below it, we have one of the reasons we've maxed it out, ATEM 4ME Constellation. Obviously it's 4K. We can get 40 inputs and 24 outputs and 4 multi-viewers out of this switcher, and what allows us to actually change all of our different camera feeds and cut between them. Right below that, we have 2 bird dogs, which is actually part of our secret sauce. These allow us to convert NDI to SDI in and out. So each one of these can do 4 NDI feeds bidirectionally. That means I can have 4 inputs from any NDI device, which could be a cell phone, a computer, a different kind of camera, and 4 outputs via NDI or any mix of the combo. Below our bird dog units, we have our 4 web presenters. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We actually wired this web presenter here with discrete audio. This allows us to be able to send out to different destinations, YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, anything we need to stream out to, we can do from here. And then one feed, we could actually give different audio. If we're going to do something in a different language, if we are going to send this to some other college and do a talking points between the two, we can have anything we want routed to this particular destination separate from all of our others. And then we can even bring in people with our decoders. So if another facility or other cameras can stream, we can ingest those feeds from anywhere in the world into our system. Again, pulling audio out of that feed so everything stays in sync. Then a little bit lower, we finally have our Ultimats. Notice the spacing is a little off because we actually have a 5th Ultimat coming in. So 1, 2, 3, this will be our 4th, 5 Ultimats for our 5 different cameras in our green screen studio. These allow us to take in the green screen feed, overlay, or put in the background a very high quality image. These are some of the best keyers on the market. And then we can convert that feed and send it into our switcher fully keyed out. So live, you're not having to like juggle how many keyers. It just comes in as a clean feed. This is what the Ultimats do. Right below that, we have a multi-viewer for our 7 different hyperdecks. Why 7? Well, you have 5 cameras plus a program main and backup system, because you always want to record maybe a clean feed or a backup switched feed, as well as your 5 camera ISOs. So those are our 7 hyperdecks. Again, everything is network controlled from the other room. All right, moving on to rack number 2, we have our full Ubiquiti system here. So we're running our Ubiquiti gateway, our aggregation switch for fiber, because it's a full 10 to 25 gig system, and our NAS. So this NAS is 1/4 of a petabyte, which means plenty of room for all of our archival video footage, for all of our film students to upload their video and projects and just archive this not only for their entire year, but multiple years if we need to. And we have plenty of redundancies built into this, access from any computer in the classroom. Coming a little bit lower, we have our rack mount monitor. This would be called an engineering monitor, so that way we can test and find different feeds happening in our system, switch between our computers, another KVM down here so we can switch to which computer we're controlling. We can check our multi-views and really just anything we need to in this space. We can route from the video hub to the rack mount monitor and fix here. A little bit below that, we have more multi-viewers for our 6 Mac Minis and our 4 deck links, each with 4 to 8 SDI outputs. So really what we're doing is have 2 playback machines, then another 2 machines that are just dedicated for our green screen backgrounds. This way we don't just have to do still backgrounds, but we can do moving backgrounds. We could build other video feeds ingesting into our backgrounds to really level up the capabilities of a green screen. Then all the way at the bottom, we have Mac Minis E and F. These are multi-purpose Mac Minis.
teleprompter, Zoom calls, anything we need a Mac Mini for to just pull up a web browser and show it in the screen and scroll along. They have dual outputs on them, so we have 2 screens to really just handle whatever we need to do, future-proofed. And now we're on the back of rack 2 where we house all of our audio. So these are 2 different Rios connected to our DM7, which is in the control room. We have all of our studio patching happening up here. The cables run up through the ceiling and into the studio, and we can physically analog patch them differently when needed, so we're not messing with a bunch of Dante routing and things like that. Then we get into all of our Scarletts, which is coming from the 6 Mac Minis housed in rack 2. These all have inputs and outputs running into our second Rio, which is handling everything else in the racks. So our decoders, our encoders, our converters, our microphones, our Apple TVs, and our program feed going into our ATEM, which hits all of our HyperDecks. Going below that, we have our SDI to audio converter. This is a utilitarian move, so any video, including all of our NDI feeds, that might embed their audio in, we can use this, route to it, and get the audio out into our DM7. That's why we need one of those. And we have lots of them for our other devices, but we do just have a spare for anything we need on the fly. Then we have our in-ear monitors, again, using all Shure products. And then we have the ULXD Quad. This gives us 4 microphones, which we've synced all 4 lavs and all 4 handhelds to the same 4 separate frequencies. So you can just turn on a lav or turn on a handheld and it'll work as long as you don't have them both on at the same time. And you can run 4 simultaneously. Then we have our Apple TVs, which this is one of those secret sauce moves, allows any student or the teacher to pull out their phone, cast to these Apple TVs, as long as they have the passcode, and then now this is a wireless camera, or I can be sharing photos from some event, or whatever we need to do, we can cast to these, get it into our system, whether it's in our live stream, whether it's for teaching purposes, whether it's just students showing off presentations that they have. We can go from phones, from laptops, from anything Apple ecosystem, which as you saw, everything in the classroom is a Mac. Then on the other side, we just have a bunch of storage. We obviously needed some sort of workspace, but we have all of our bins. Let's start at the top. Lens cases, focus zoom handles, HDMI 3 to 12 foot, network cables, lots of 200-foot Ethernets for running cameras at a really far distance. We have our audio microphones, iPhone accessories for mobile shooting. Then we have a bunch of our XLRs of all different lengths. We get over here, network adapters, rigging safety cables. We have some tools, hardware, Velcro for cable management. Then we get into all of our USB stuff. So USB-C to C, USB-A to C, A extensions. We have backup stream decks in case you need more control for other places. Then we have USB hubs, lots more USB cable. We get into SDI. We have converters, decimators, and longer length SDI. Again, everything you would need to not only run a production in the studio, but do mobile production as well. Here we have the mobile unit, so as streamlined as we can make it, but still full capabilities. A souped up MacBook Pro with some Ultra Studios to get playback or key and fills for lower third videos. 8 input switcher, it can ISO record. We have a rack mount monitor that just hides away here. We do have an audio meters, so we can get headphones out. And we have our 2110 system, so we can bring in 4 studio cameras. We can even, with the HD8, bring in remote cameras, because these have decoders built in for wireless cameras on the network. So lots of different capabilities here. Last thing we don't have here yet, but we're getting, is the Yamaha DM3 as a professional audio board to go with this whole mobile unit. And then we even have smaller units that can be used with our Ronin 4Ds, our Sony cameras. We have gimbals for everything. It's just everything you want in mobile capability right here. And then we have the Ronin 4D, and this thing is just a beast in general. Used on real Netflix and Hollywood movie shows. You can hold it, run around with it, wireless streaming to the monitor, wireless control of everything. It even has the 4D function, which a lot of people call the chicken wing. So it really just stabilizes footage, allow you to run around, look up and down, and of course you can also joystick control it, rig this up on a tripod, go out, shoot, whatever you need, and wirelessly send these signals either to the monitor and then from the monitor to a switcher, or just stream with an encoder or something like that. So just so many capabilities. We are super happy to have the Ronin, and there's 2 of these. We even have the backpack systems, so you can take all these heavy components, put it in a backpack, and just take the front off and run around with it, super lightweight. They've been using these on a lot of productions. This thing can do 8K footage. It's just a beast in general, so super happy to have the Ronin. All right, and that's the studio. We're really happy with how it turned out. The green screen has actually been a really great feature. At one point, we even thought about going video wall for everything, but the green screen helps with post-production, allows the studio to feel a lot bigger than it really was. We don't have to do any real camera tracking, and the studio is built to handle it when we want to implement it for our green screen movements. The floor to cyc has been awesome. The curve looks great. We're really happy with just everyone who's helped to do this build. If you want to find out more about this particular build, go down to the description and find that information. With that, I hope you learned something. Hope this was helpful. Hopefully it was inspirational to whoever wants to come here or check out a similar space like this. With all that, we're on to the next one. Thanks for watching.